So tonight's one of those fun nights here at our meetings where we have not only a promotion in the Arizona Police Department, but also an appointment. As everyone knows, we have a small, tight-knit police department, and so adding an officer or promoting an officer is definitely a big deal, which is why we always want to have them at our meeting. And we have them at the beginning of the meeting because it's usually the only crowd we get at our meetings. So I'm glad to see, at least even with all the strangers in the world, we do have some people in the audience tonight for the promotion and for the appointment. So for as long as Irvington's been around, I believe we have not had a female police sergeant in Irvington. We've done some research. I haven't gone all the way back to the black and white photos, but as far as we know, I can't imagine it happened back then. So tonight is a very exciting night and a historic night, and a night for Jessica Huff to be very proud of herself. Because it's not given, it's earned, and she has definitely earned it. We've enjoyed watching her grow from, joining us here in Irvington and kind of hitting the ground running, and, even though it is 2022, it's not exactly like we have a palatial setup for a female officer in our department. She's had to make do and never complained about her changing area and all those types of things. When this building was built, I don't think they envisioned having more than about 3 or 4 officers, never mind male and female officers. So against kind of, in some, not necessarily the best conditions, you've definitely shown and you've earned yourself a promotion. So congratulations to you, Jessica, for that. Maybe a round of applause. Well, I will read the official proclamation first, then we can do the official oath of office. Resolved to appoint Jessica Huff to the position of police sergeant on a permanent basis at an annual salary of $141,632, effective April 5th, 2022, subject to completion of a probationary period of not less than 12 weeks and not more than 52 weeks. I'll make a motion if I can get a second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. You want to come on up and join me? Take my mask off for the swearing in.
Awesome.
You can raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Jessica Huff, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York.
and the Constitution of New York.
I will faithfully discharge
And I will faithfully discharge
the duties of police sergeant
the duties of police sergeant
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. Full shield too. Do the ceremonial
With the
picture. I'm not going to risk sticking anyone ever.
Yeah, you can bring it.
Yeah. Congratulations. Yeah.
Aw.
It's a lot better if he does than me though.
Okay.
Let's see if I can find it.
All right, great. Thank you so much.
Next up, we have a appointment to our police department. Recently, we've added 2 junior officers that are still in the academy and we're awaiting their graduation. But to fill some of the gaps from some of our recent retirements, we knew we needed to find a experienced officer who also had the right mindset, the right attitude, and the right demeanor to come to Irvington. And I think we found all of those and more when we found Patrick Garvey. His interview was phenomenal. He has an announcer's voice, so it was kind of like we just listened to him talk the whole time, but it was definitely a very solid interview, and we knew right away that we had found someone that we wanted to work in our village. So congratulations, Patrick. I'll read the resolution now. Resolved to appoint Patrick Garvey to the position of police officer grade 3 at an annual salary of $78,131, effective April 4th, 2022, subject to completion of a probationary period of not less than 12 weeks and not more than 52 weeks. I'll make the motion if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now you can come up for the ceremonial. Okay, raise your right hand, repeat after me in your deep voice. I, Patrick Garvey,
I, Patrick Garvey,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office of police officer
the duties of the office of police officer
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. Yeah. 262, is that what it says? All right, well, good luck. Well, see you next. Thank you. All right, now back to Monday.
Thanks again.
Thank you. Take care, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh, my God.
Pay for the Arbor Day.
Now no one.
The Arbor Day proclamation doesn't draw like it used to. But I will read it. So now we have announcements. First is Arbor Day. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Martin proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, is first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and the beauty of our community. And whereas trees are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. And whereas Irvington has been recognized as Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation and desires to continue its tree planting ways. Now therefore, I, Brian C. Smith, Mayor of the Village of Irvington, do hereby proclaim April 29, 2022 as Arbor Day in the Village of Irvington. And I urge all citizens to support efforts to care for our trees and woodlands and to support our community forestry program. And further, I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the hearts and promote the well-being of present and future generations. I don't think we have to make a motion on that. It just stands on its own.
Now, we have a Arbor Day tree planting coming up, right?
Well, I would just mention, Joe sent an email about an hour ago quoting TJ that after this year, we will have planted over 1,350 trees and introduced 19 native trees and shrubs into the Irvington Woods Park and the grounds of the O'Hara Nature Center and the Herman's wetland area. Within the next couple of weeks, there are plans to plant over 800 trees and shrubs in the woods.
Awesome. Well, there's 19 different types of native.
But I think,
Yeah, I don't think that's 18 native trees and then a couple thousand.
Unless those 13.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Great. Next, we just had, I don't think I'm going to read these, but we do have our, I guess it's kind of always an evergreen document, but officially producing or releasing our Village Board of Trustees priorities for 2022. You know, we've obviously spent some time on this. I always feel like by the time we get our priorities set, it's almost the next year, but you know, I think read through these and you'll see where we plan to be spending our time for the next year. So but these will be posted. I assume there'll be a link on that.
It will be starting tomorrow, yes.
Great. Next up, we have a check over $25,000, which was for Tom Bucci Excavating, repairs of water main breaks in multiple locations throughout February from the water fund, and it was an amount of $34,268.75 across, I didn't say it was 8 projects, or 8 water main breaks, but I might be off by 1 or 2 there. Next up, I will make a motion to hold a public hearing to consider a local law amending zoning code to permit outdoor dining in restaurants. That is scheduled for Monday, April 18th, 2022 at 7 p.m. at Village Hall. I'll make that motion if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Just a quick note that the restaurant owners that were originally going to come together to meet after the board discussed and put this law together, I informed them about it, and obviously they're quite happy. So, but they do know when the hearing is, and they may make comments. We'll see.
Great. Yeah, hopefully it's gonna work for them and work for Ed. So
Yeah.
otherwise it's not a great law.
Exactly.
Next up, I will also make a motion to hold the public hearing to consider a local law increasing the veterans exemption limits. That is also for Monday, April 18th, 2022 at 7 p.m. in Village Hall. If I can have a second.
Okay.
All in favor? Right. I don't believe we had, does anybody have any other announcements before I move on?
So I was trying to get a confirmation. Larry, did you hear from Alan or DPW? I heard that there was going to be an Arbor Day planting.
There will be. I just didn't have the details in time for this.
Yeah, okay. I don't know when it was exactly, but I know that the trees are getting donated by Davy Tree, I think.
Yeah, I'll get the details and announce it.
We can announce it the next meeting.
At the next meeting, it'll still be
Because Arbor Day is 29th.
29th, yeah.
So
Okay, good.
so we can announce it. I don't believe we had any correspondence, Larry.
No.
Open for public comment. If anybody on Zoom, you can raise your hand on Zoom. Larry will promote you. All right, everyone's pre-game for the party, or for the basketball game. Next up, the consent agenda. Anyone have any questions on that? Otherwise, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda. All in favor? Next up is, always seems a little anticlimactic because we've done so much work on it, but tonight I will make a motion to open the public hearing on the 2022-2023 operating budget. If I can have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
As I mentioned briefly, we haven't been spending a lot of time on this, but the amount of time the board spend is a fraction of the time that Brenda and Larry have spent and Brenda's staff. It's kind of bittersweet because this is Brenda's last budget, except that she wants to come back to work on it, as a volunteer, which you're more than welcome to come back next year, Brenda.
It's her last one.
I'm going out with a bang.
But this is one of those years where I think that we had some of the most kind of unexpected news. I think it was probably it's probably the most unpredictable 2 years budget wise that we've ever had. And I think what we saw was the strength of our department heads, but especially Brenda's department and Larry's leadership in the way that they were able to shift gears so quickly, to be so conservative and put the village and taxpayers in such a great position. We came in with, almost a flat budget, but we were so conservative on our revenues, especially with the building department, because they don't seem sustainable, but then, you can't say they're not sustainable after you have 3 or 4 really strong years. So we still took what I consider kind of a conservative increase. And we were able to come in with an exactly flat budget. So, the percentage increase is flat. I just want to thank all the department heads. Again, I think this budget process is really a 12-month process now. When someone figures out a way to save money, they don't wait till, February to have a hearing. They work with Larry, they work with Brenda. I think, Larry's meetings have been great with that, with the department heads. For people just being able to brainstorm and come up with ideas and ways to save money and know that they're going to be rewarded for it. So I just think the tone of across the village is fantastic. It is thinking of the taxpayers. You see it from big examples like the fire department that could probably demand 3 new trucks tomorrow if they really wanted to by some letter of the law or some recommendation, but they always figure out ways to save money. I think their increases over the years are almost nil. Even the police department with kind of rejigging the way we're hiring younger guys and and we've had lost experience, but the chief has thought of ways to mentor guys and increase training and there's just so many great things going on in all departments, and the DPW continues to do it, and the library even came with a negative budget this year. even with all the repairs and HVAC system issues and floods and all the other things that we have. So the nice thing about that is that when something comes along like the county increasing the tax revenue or the rate, so we get more sales tax, which happened, I guess it was 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
Couldn't really count on it last year because we had no idea what the heck was going to happen. It wasn't like every department raised their hand and said, I need money, I want to spend that. We spent it 3 times over before we got it, which I think is kind of kind of something that people expect governments to do. But we were smart about it the first year and said, let's just kind of, budget it slightly up or flat. And it came in, higher than that during COVID, which I think was a big surprise. And one of the reasons we're in such a great position. Our overall, our surplus has continued to grow, even though we've elected to try to reduce that sum, consciously decided to reduce it and, pay for things and keep our borrowing down. But, kind of the fiscal conservancy of the village overall has allowed that to continue to grow. So we still have that to use, even though, we kind of said this is a rainy day with a global pandemic. It stopped raining and we still have money left. So it's great. So, every department from the rec and the theater, which obviously the theater was decimated by not having anybody, there was just literally the theater's closed. How do you have a theater? They continue to work hard. They didn't just say, you know what, I'm going to get paid and I'm just going to phone it in. I think they probably worked harder than ever before. They've continued to stay in people's minds and thoughts. And when they reopen, everyone's going to be so thrilled. Now they're still closed because we're working on the HVAC, but I think that's kind of a good problem to have. And the rec department with their kind of variable model where they, if they don't have revenue coming in, they don't have money that they have to spend on programming. So, you go back to having only 2 full-time parks employees, which is mind-boggling to me with all the acres that they have to take care of and all the things we asked them to do with, trying to be more, kind of eco-conscious with their, cleaning and all that stuff. And all the senior programming and the expanded senior programming we had during COVID and the million other things that no one even knows that the recreation department does. All of those things are still going on. Our service levels are super high. The DPW, I must get 100 thank yous, like I have anything to do with it, about how great our DPW is with snow and ice removal, just keeping the village looking great. And, it's all done and we have a 0% tax increase this year. So without cutting any services. And we actually even put the fireworks back in the budget this year. So it's, I just feel like I'm very grateful to all the hard work that came into this night, and it makes it easy. And the fact that we don't have, well, maybe we do on Zoom, but I don't, sense that there's people with pitchforks and, and torches waiting to yell at us about the budget we're proposing, because I think it's hard to get really upset about a flat budget, but I can get excited about it though. So with all that being said, I'll turn it over to, I guess, Larry and Brenda to officially present it.
I'd like to say a few things. Well, thank you, Brian, for going over that. I very appreciate that. I just think also our department heads and the village as a total, the agility to react to a change. Every year something else comes up in the budget or the environment or the economy, and the agility to react to it swiftly, and so that the village can come out ahead in the end or come out in a good position. And I'll point out that with everyone's input and your management, we've had in the past 5 years, only last year we had an increase of 2%. So out of 5 years, last year, because of the COVID, we had an increase, but I think it's remarkable. And I'm not aware of anyone else in the area having such a flat tax rate. So I think our residents would like to know that about the past 5 years. A few other things though that contributed to it, I'll point out, it was a little timing of other items like our retirement of certain debt service bonds came due at this time. So we had a savings in those areas. Also, the retirement contributions was down as well. It helped our assessment roll went up by over 1%. That added to mitigate the impact of some increases we had. We were able to have our recurring paving put into our operating budget. That was an accomplishment. We've been working at that for several years to have items that we were in the past were borrowing for now within the operating budget. So that came in as an expense in this budget, and we're able to cover it. We had departmental revenues, expenses as well across the board, but, and also the reduction of that surplus last year. We had, as you mentioned, dipped in, deeper than we ever had to flatten the tax rate, hoping that it was a temporary, issue with COVID and the impact it was having on the village. So I'm very pleased, and I'm, very happy to present my last budget. I'm very happy to present it tonight.
Great. Thank you, Brenda. Yeah, you and all your staff. Is there anything, Larry?
No, no, she does it all.
Anybody else have any questions, comments? We obviously had 2 new members this year. I appreciate all the hard work and time you guys put into really understanding it. I do think that there's so many moving parts. And even as a CPA or a former CPA, village accounting, municipal accounting is not necessarily intuitive, especially with some of the strange accounting and the fact that we have the water fund is not really part of the fund, and we have the library, it's like the library isn't what it is. It's like all these strange things. And I appreciate the fact that you both took the time to really understand it. So it saves us a lot of time in meetings as well. So thank you very much. And you guys, thanks for having me.
I just wanted to thank everyone as well, Larry and Brenda, and everyone involved, because it's, as a trustee or like a resident, a 0 tax increase is pretty significant, and to carry it across the last 5 years where we've seen a very, nominally very small increase over that time period. I think it's pretty amazing.
So we're in a public hearing, so
We'll open it up if anybody has any comments from the public.
Yep.
We're online, right, Larry?
we are. That's not frozen. But no hands raised. So you have lots of different options. You can close the public hearing. You can keep it open and adopt the budget at the next meeting. You can.
We haven't received any correspondence about the budget. In addition, it's a flat budget. So if we had 17% increase and no one knew about it, and now the enterprise is going to pick it up, maybe we leave it open, or maybe we wouldn't. But I can't imagine that anyone's going to have these real strong feelings. So I think I'm okay with closing it if you guys want to.
Agree.
I mean, it's my budget, it's like, my feeling is that if someone was gonna complain, they would complain over it.
I agree, yeah. It's not like we cut any major services, like, we got rid of, whatever. I don't want to ever say what it might be, because that's, discussed, yeah. But if we got rid of the mayor's position, $5,000 a year, $4,800 a year or something, like, we didn't eliminate any services either, so I don't think there's a lot of risk to closing the budget tonight. So
I'm happy to go ahead with it. I don't see.
So I will make a motion to close the budget hearing if I can get a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So as far as the resolution goes, you actually don't have a written one in front of you, but it's very straightforward. So you're adopting the budget as presented, with a tax rate of 7.9709. And you're also, the one area we didn't cover, not purposely, but as you know, there is a 2% increase in the water rates that came out of the budget process. So those are the 3 points of your resolution.
So I will make a motion as discussed by Larry, if I can get a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Great, thank you.
Congratulations, Brenda.
Thank you.
Well done, thank you.
I have to keep that book and. Put it,
Please, Brenda, you will be back in the office tomorrow, right?
You can bronze.
Thank you. That was.
The budget is,
You need a really strong magnet to put on the back of a refrigerator. So next up is a volunteer appointment in the Irvington Housing Committee. This is one that actually made so much sense, and I'm glad she wanted to do it, but resolved to appoint our old trustee colleague, Janice Silverberg, as a member of the Irvington Housing Committee for a term to expire December 2022. I'll make the motion. We're gonna have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
If I can take a second, Janice did ask me to just let the board and the public know that she's very happy to be serving and appreciates the efforts that Brian and the board went through. From a personal standpoint, as the liaison to the housing committee, Janice's expertise and experience is going to be invaluable for her joining the other great members of the housing committee, and there's a lot of work to be done over the next year or so. So we're all looking forward to it.
Great. Thank you, Janice, for continuing to come back out. You took about a year off, maybe not even.
Couple months.
A couple of months, yeah, not even 6 months, maybe.
Yeah, we had her lined up right from the start.
Yeah, exactly. Next is a continuation of the community choice aggregation program. Did you want to tee this one up, Larry?
Sure.
I mean, I think we talked about it. But I'll let you walk through it.
I'll summarize it in a few words.
Please.
So, yeah, so this is the program that the village has been involved with now since probably 2016. And it is essentially a competitively bid electric rate for those residents who have not made a choice on their electric supplier. So the default supplier is being competitively bid out at typically lower rates, but not always, but it's at a fixed rate. So this particular contract is now set to expire June 30th. It was 18 months long. The rate is quite advantageous. I think it was somewhere in the 8 cent range per kilowatt hour. The variable rate, as you probably know from hearing the news, and Con Edison rates are considerably higher than that now and have been this year. So this program, the request from the Sustainable Westchester, which is the leader of this program, is to extend this particular contract 6 months. That will give them the ability to then competitively bid out when hopefully the market conditions are a little bit quieter. I don't know. They know better than we do, but they would then work towards a competitively bid successor contract after this extension. So it'd be 6 months extension to the end of 22, and then a new contract. And we don't know the duration of the next contract. They would have to work on that. Could be a year, could be 18 months, could be 2 years, could be 3 years for that matter. I mean, but likely not. So this is just for that extension. So the rate is actually not 100% determined yet. It will not be any higher than 12.5 cents, but they're still negotiating with the supplier on the extension. So that's the message that's delivered to the elected officials on this extension.
And Larry, the one thing, if I'm correct in remembering, this is green energy, right?
Yes.
The village opted in a while back to,
Yeah.
as opposed to just all energy is somewhat dirty, but
Yeah.
opposed to regular energy source. So it's actually quite a good thing for residents who who get the benefit of both a decent fixed rate plus it's green.
Right. Exactly. And it's been that way since the beginning. We've chosen the green power option, or you've chosen the green power option.
I thought at the very beginning it was both options, and then they
You had an option, but we
The
chose
default
green.
The default was green, but you could choose the cheaper.
Yeah.
So we're continuing with that.
Okay.
It's just the default. And what I didn't know was that, I said, this just seems kind of, big brother government making you now default to this if you don't do anything. It's exactly what Con Ed did back in the day. It's just, we're having someone else default to somebody else. So it's like, that it didn't seem, well, when it was explained to me, it didn't seem as kind of overhanded as it was, as it seemed.
And it's fixed. It's a fixed price, which is,
It's been great the last, I think, year or so.
yeah, there's lots of fixed price offers out there, and you can look at them all on whatever website has all that information together. And this will be cheaper than that, and you won't have to worry about questioning yourself about whether you've made the right choice or whether you've entered into an agreement that will then pop up to be considerably higher, all those complexities that we see all the time.
It's one of those things where they're using, kind of, the law of big numbers in their favor, because they have this consortium of, hundreds of thousands of people rather than, me going to some service, energy provider.
Exactly.
Locking in. So,
And frankly, as we talked about at the work session, most people don't have the expertise in this area. I couldn't tell you half of the terminology that the person from Sustainable Westchester was talking about at our meeting, at our work session. It's a complicated area. And so,
Right, and there are opportunities to opt in and out.
Yes.
It's like trying to play the market.
frankly, there's people who may pay attention to this more, and they may have noticed that during the pandemic time, the price of natural gas had dropped considerably, so the variable rate from Con Edison was actually lower than what this fixed rate was. You were paying attention, opted out, and then watch the rates, and then opt back in when you want to. Not saying everyone does that, but who watches that? I mean, some
No,
people,
but the flexibility is there.
it's there.
How do people find out about opting in?
They get a direct mailer from Westchester Power, which is the name for this whole program. So they'll get a direct mailer if you're a Con Edison default supplier. So if you don't have a plan on your own, you're a default supplier, you'll get a mailer directly. That's why we have to do this month, so that they can mail to people in time for the June 30th expiration and the July 1st renewal or extension. So it all goes backwards. But that's how it happens.
And there's no,
You may have paid attention to it, you may not have in the past, you know what I mean? So it's,
Is that on our website? So
We-
like,
we have information about Westchester
Okay.
Power on our website.
people can kind of go to that.
Yeah,
and there's no penalty for switching
correct,
out. Once you're defaulted in, and then you can switch out if you want.
correct.
Unlike a lot of contracts where you have to pay an exit fee.
That's the complexity that most people don't pay attention to. You opt into something that sounds great, and then it bumps up to a higher rate when you're not paying attention, and you're locked into it for however long. But not this.
whereas by resolution 2015-123 and local law 2015-09, the Village of Irvington established a community choice aggregation program in cooperation with Sustainable Westchester, Inc., a not-for-profit organization now comprised of over 40 municipalities in Westchester County. And whereas the program is set to expire on June 30th, 2022, and whereas the village wishes to continue its participation in the program beyond the June 30, 2022 expiration date, now therefore be it resolved to approve the memorandum of understanding with Sustainable Westchester, Inc. and the associated energy services agreement, subject to a compliant offer received and award made as required to continue the community choice aggregation program, and to authorize the village administrator to execute said documents, all subject to the final approval of the village attorney. I'll make the motion if I can have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Designation of independent auditor. More things change, the more they stay the same.
Well, we had a contract in the past with O'Connor Davies, our auditor. They kept the rate level for about 4 years. It had increased last year. We were out of contract. We extended it 1 year because we couldn't really, or we extended it. Now we need to decide if we want to continue with them. So our former price was $27,000 since 2016. So we're playing a little bit of catch up here in a rate increase, but extending it for a 5-year agreement. We're very happy with the auditors. They're familiar with us as a client and our operations. There's also more complexity to the audit. There's more requirements. There's 2 more items, schedules that have to be added to the audit to be compliant. That's all included. So I will say that it has become a more complex auditing process, which takes more time for the auditor.
Where are we at now? You said 27?
It was 27, it's now 35,000
But that's fixed, that was fixed for 5 years.
since 2016.
Brenda, I seem to remember last year that the partner that I was familiar seeing was not.
Susan Rose.
As part of the
Susan Rose,
presentation.
right. So she's no longer, she's currently, I'm not sure, she's on leave of absence at the moment. So she's, we've been assigned a different partner, Alan Cassay, and he's been very responsive.
Just want to make sure, since there'll be a changeover on our part and a changeover. on their-
We're also very lucky that the manager who's been the on-site manager is Melissa Zott. She's been on our account at least 4 years. So she was the, as I said, when they come in and do the actual audit, she's the lead accountant on
So
it.
there's
She's
continuity.
been promoted now to a partner at the firm.
Oh, okay.
So she'll be serving the role of both managing partner and manager of the
Okay,
audit
great.
next year.
Resolved to designate the firm of PKF O'Connor Davies LLP of Harrison, New York as official independent auditor for the Village of Irvington and Village of Irvington Justice Court per their proposal as follows: 2022, $35,000, 2023, $35,000, 2024, $35,700, 2025, $36,400, and 2026, $37,100. Further resolves to authorize the village clerk treasurer to execute a letter of engagement. I'll make the motion. If I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next up, we have authorizing tax tertiary settlement on Marian Noble. Anything to note here? You know, the big one always is that we were aware of this and it was,
Yeah, this is well within any money that we have set aside for tertiary settlements.
whereas petitions have been filed by Marian Noble hereinafter petitioner challenging real property assessments in the Village of Irvington and Town of Greenberg's assessment rolls with respect to subject property for 2016 through 2019 tax years. With respect to the parcel designated as section 2-2.150, block 62, lots 5, 6, 7, 8. Property owners Marian Noble, 61 and 65 West Clinton, 2016 and 2019. Whereas petitioner's actions are now pending in Supreme Court, Westchester County, and whereas the town and petitioner have reached a mutually agreeable resolution. Now, therefore, the village is authorized to effectuate a settlement commensurate with the following terms: section 2.120, block 62, lot 5, assessment year 2016, original 49,500, revised assessment 5,000, reduction of 44,500. That's actually the same for all years.
Yeah.
For 20, and then for section 2.120, block 62, lot 6. It's also the same. It started, it was 108,900, went down to 15,000, reduction to $93,900. And for block 62, lot 7, for 2018 and 2019, the original assessment $2,542,700 down to $2,200,000 for a reduction of $342,700. Also the same for 2019. And then for lot 8, the original assessment is $324,000 down to $35,000 for a reduction of $289,000, and that's the same every year from 2016 to 2019. The Village of Irvington share of the refund is $18,722.64. So it looks like they had wildly overestimated the land costs there.
Yeah, those 3 lots are not building lots. And so but I think the way they were reassessed by the appraisal company probably tried to make the assumption they were building lots, and obviously the homeowner had to make the opposite case, and looks like they did. So
So I will make a motion if I can get a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next is approval of the 2021 Volunteer Fire Department Service Award listing. I think that for the 2 new trustees, I think you're aware of, you get a pension. Basically, if you hit a certain point threshold, it's 50 points. And then after 5 years, I guess it kind of vests, but you have to have 50 points every year. Then I think it's up to 30 years. I'm not sure what it matches out.
I'm not sure what the max is.
But there's a cap on the top. I think you get something like $25 for every year. Yeah, so it's
25 per month per year of service.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm actually on this list. I'm still technically a member, but I didn't make the threshold, so I don't have to recuse myself.
And so this is, just so you know why it's even in front of you, this is purely really ministerial. It's written into the service award laws in New York State that the governing body of the service award has to approve this list. This list is provided to us by the fire department. We obviously look it over to see if it makes sense. And you need to approve it. And once it's approved, it gets sent to the actuary for calculation of benefits and and all of
And they
that.
calculate what the village's contribution needs to be to that fund to support enough money to pay out those pensions.
Who would decide, in other words, who oversees this points list?
You, the chief?
The chief and the fire department, they are responsible for putting this together. And like I said, we review it internally, but we don't dig that deep into it, to be perfectly honest.
I guess I'm thinking, do people on this list have a due process to go to the chief and say, well, this is wrong?
It is posted, there's a requirement to post it for at least 30 days in the fire department and ambulance corps.
And the way it works, like, so in other words, fire points, rescue points, I think you have to make 20% of calls to get that point. So if you, that's either an on or an off. So if you make 20%, you get 15 points for both rescue and for fire calls. Training is, that's above and beyond training. I think that's like if you go to county training center, which I can tell this year it's very low because I'm guessing there weren't a lot of outside training opportunities. That's usually a big number. Drills, you get, I think it's a point for every one you go to. So if you train every month, you know, it's 2 points a month. Meetings, you just get a point to you if you went to go to the meeting. And miscellaneous, I think you get like, you know, so if you attend a funeral, you attend a cleanup, if you attend scouts or visiting day, whatever it is, you get some miscellaneous points there. And I also know that if someone's at like 48 points, 49 points, you know, the chiefs will work with them and say, hey, you know, you've done your best because you've been here all you can. You might miss training because you were hurt or something. We'll have a cleanup day and get you to 50 or whatever it is. So they typically try to work with them and they are aware of the points that are posted.
And it's set up so that you don't, there's maximums in each category. So you can't just attend meetings and never go to a fire, right? Or never get trained, you know, or anything like that.
Yeah. And there's other things too, like if you don't have certain training, you can't do certain things, obviously, but this is kind of a catch-all.
And having just started attending some of their meetings, I would say their record keeping and their registration seems to be pretty tight. So I think they have backup for everything that's being done.
I'll add that they did give us more information. The spreadsheet was much longer, wider. I couldn't possibly get it on. So I boiled it down to the amount accrued by each individual fire.
And it's also one of those
That's
things
the total.
where it's gotten more technologically advanced, like you used to literally sign in. So someone could
They
potentially
do everything electronic.
exactly, you scan your card or whatever. So someone could have signed you in the past, but now it's, you have to actually have a physical card. there. So it's better on both sides, I guess.
Brian, I think I've been to more meetings than you have.
Yeah. Yeah, it was only at one meeting and then I think there was a couple of funerals. Those are my 3 points. Resolved to approve the 2021 service listing for volunteers at Aggregation Village Fire Department to be used for their length of service award plan as detailed in the report. I'll make a motion like that. Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And very similarly, the approval of the 2021 volunteer ambulance corps service award listing. You tell it's a similar type of schematics, slightly different, you know, categories. But if there's no further questions, I will go ahead and approve it. Resolved to approve the 2021 service listing for volunteers at Ironton Volunteer Ambulance Corps to be used for the length of service award plan as detailed on the report. I'll make the motion. If I get a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next up, reports of board, standing committees and officers, trustee liaison reports. Mark?
Well, the one I had was about the Arbor Day thing, but I did not get the updated information. That one was actually scheduled.
Okay.
Beyond that, the other tree commission thing of interest is they're updating the recommended tree and tree lists for, you know, shade trees, understory trees, evergreen. And they'll be 100% native at this next iteration. And will be up on the website soon, probably in the next month. So people can refer to that and get some, you know, good ideas about what kind of things to plant.
Right?
There's a banner of camps. Applications are available for summer positions, both in the day camp and in Teamscape. Arlene, I think you asked about that last month. I did ask Joe when they do have announcements made, and announcements are also made at the CAB meetings as well. So again, staff for Teenscape and for camp, reach out if you're interested. Early bird summer camp registration and Teenscape registration are also both going on at this time. Under the banner of Irvington Woods Park, there will be the heirloom apple grafting workshop at the Nature Center, April 9th, April 16th, and April 23rd. If you haven't been there, it's really great. See, they've done a really good job there. There is a $40 registration fee and pre-registration is required. Well, there's also, again, the barberry removal program. They had one this past Saturday and it was another great turnout. There'll be another work day in April. And when that date's available, we'll get it. Park staff have all park bathrooms open for use, which now means that we're accepting group permit requests for all parks. Tennis classes are starting. Adult softball league is starting. Evening tennis court registrations have started this Wednesday, March 6th for night play. Registration for daytime hours has been ongoing. And under the banner of senior citizens, if you know of any senior citizen in need of help or support, please contact Joan Armstrong at 914-494-0214. Thanks.
That's it.
That's it.
Mitch?
School board didn't get back to me with everything. The library, always look at the library website. They have ongoing programs, a mixture of in person and on Zoom. And it's both for adults and for children. So we'll keep up to date with what's going on there. Theater had, I attended the theater commission meeting on March 24th. Some of the interesting things to happen. One is, Brian had mentioned earlier how hard at work they are, and that's really an understatement. In fact, there's a lot of work going on during up for what will happen when the theater opens up. So, your manager has been in touch with the arts partners talking about rates and availability and things like that. I know that Greg and Ryan have been consulting with the rec department about the possibility of building a stage in Matheson. So that's ongoing. Obviously, the HVAC project is the number one thing everyone's talking about. And working with the design firm to find the right place to put the main guts of the unit and the exhaust fan and everything. So they're working on a third idea and trying to see what will work out best. Obviously, as we always say, the challenges of putting an HVAC system into a 120-year-old building that's historically significant. It's not easy, but they are moving forward and they're starting to feel like they could see a completion date coming down the line. We're also using this time to make other changes and improvements to the theater that have been, that using this time that they're closed to take advantage of. And also just for planning for the future, the commission is going to meet without me being present to kind of set its priorities and what it sees and what it wants to be doing in the future. And obviously I will, be the liaison with the board for that. And really the big stuff there. That's all I got.
I just have one announcement, which is to remind everybody that the event for Detective David Walsh is this Saturday, April 9th from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. at Immaculate Conception Gym. And there's going to be food, raffles, t-shirts, music, and more. So please, show support for Detective Walsh if you are around that day.
I forgot any announcements. And now we will go with the village administrators.
So a couple things. Last week we met with the engineers for the Astor Gateway drop-off traffic circulation effort. So we talked about a potential way forward on that. I think the budget's probably not going to work entirely under the state grant that we got, which is $200,000. So you'll be hearing more about that when we get some more information from them on the costs. But still, I think will be a worthwhile project to move forward. We continue to meet regarding the Memorial Day parade. So we do hope that we're able to pull together a parade this year for the event. And more information about that when we have it. But that's what we're looking at now. And the final thing is that today we just had a actually our second electric vehicle delivered for the village, which is for the building department. It's a Nissan Leaf, and it was ordered back in September, so it's right on time. But we got it, so it'll take a little bit to get it deployed, but
Did it come fully charged?
it's yeah. I don't even know.
Battery's not. included.
We do have it, so that's good news. So
Does it need to have an upgrade to power a laptop or something inside, or,
no,
like talk about because of the computers using up excess battery?
yeah, it does use battery, but not enough to wear it down, so it should be okay.
Village Clerk Treasurer's report?
Nothing further tonight.
Village Attorney?
No, no report.
Public comment, Larry?
Anyone, there's one person with their hand up, hold on, it's Earl Ferguson, who they should provide himself.
Hello.
Earl,
Hello.
yes, we can hear you.
Hey, Earl.
Hi there. Hi, everyone. It's really nice to see you all back in the trustees room tonight. I just wanted to mention something very quickly. I probably walked out of the room when the subject of the priorities for 2022 came up. I think that was on the agenda tonight, but I just wanted to say that those of us who've been working with you and the public several years on historic preservation are really pleased to see. I am particularly pleased to see that the intent to implement the comprehensive plan recommendations as a matter of things to continue to work on in 2022. And that third bullet, particularly to implement a public education effort on currently available tax and business advantages available in the historic district and advantages of the local landmark and adaptive reuse of historic properties laws for qualified properties. It's a great thing that we're going to keep looking at that. And there had been other recommendations that were discussed in the comprehensive plan. I'm sorry, I don't know what the status of them are in particular, but I just wanted to raise once again the idea of code modernization. That had been discussed a bit. I don't see it listed, as a part of what we intend to continue to work on. But what it was about was to try and update the process for the building and renovation permits and site development plan approvals for locally designated historic structures and or properties that are a part of contributing to the historic district. And those amendments, I don't think we ever got very specific about them, but basically, I wish we could look more closely at possibly amending the zoning code to adjust to what we used to refer to as the built reality of the historic district, to consider incentives instead of disincentives for property improvements to be done in non-conforming lots. Most of the lots in the historic district are only 2,500 square feet. And they're all existing non-conforming, just about everything from floor area ratio to setbacks and lot coverage. And it really represents a burden on owners of properties in the historic district instead of an incentive for them to make property improvements. The process is very onerous and expensive and time consuming, and it's a waste of it's a waste of resources and time spent even on the part of, the planning board and zoning board and building department, no doubt. We used to want to look at maybe streamlining that or taking some of the burden off of people who are expected to maintain the historic character of their properties. For instance, one thing that I could mention just as an example, we're trying to encourage the use of air source or ground source heat pumps and energy efficient equipment and alterations to our properties. But if you have a 2,500 square foot lot and your setback requirement is 10 feet from the property line, you can't put down a pad for an exterior piece of equipment that would support air source heat pumps without being non-conforming. So you have to go to the planning board first, and then you have to go to the zoning board. And then if you're lucky to get a variance for that setback requirement and are able to locate the thing in a manner in which it would be truly efficiently operational, then, of course, you go then through the architectural review board and then back to the building department. I wish we could look at that more closely and see if there are any amendments to either the code itself or the process that folks have to go through to gain those approvals. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Earl.
Anybody else, Larry? Okay. Review of action items.
Be specific, I guess Marian's gonna rewrite the code for the historic district, right?
Yeah. So I'll make the motion to adjourn right now. Second. All in favor? Yeah.